The glass coffee mug slipped from his hands and shattered across the tile floor just as he heard her whisper the words that would change everything. "My ex-husband is standing across the street watching us. Kiss me, please." The sound of breaking glass echoed like a gunshot in the sterile midday office air, and for a single frozen heartbeat, the world narrowed to the reflection in the window, two lives colliding under fluorescent lights while a shadow from the past hovered outside like a loaded storm. Before that moment, Armin Hale's life had been a quiet sequence of survival. A former architecture student who had dropped out after his mother died of untreated heart failure, he now worked as a junior project coordinator in a glass and steel corporate building that smelled of copied paper and burnt coffee. He carried his grief like a folded blueprint stained with old rain. He walked with careful steps, spoke only when needed, and avoided mirrors because the face staring back at him always looked older than his years. For Armin, life had become routine pain, predictable and numb, a long midday where the sun never quite warmed his skin. His boss, Verena Cross, had been the first person in years to look at him as if he mattered. She moved through the office with purpose, heels tapping like a heartbeat. Her past was hidden behind immaculate blazers and a soft, luminous smile that carried the weight of something broken but restrained. She was not just a boss. She was a woman who had married too young to a man who wore charm like a weapon and control like perfume. The divorce cost her more than half of her confidence and all of her sense of safety. She worked longer hours not for ambition, but to keep her mind from walking down the dark hallway of memory where slammed doors and slammed hearts lived. That day, the air outside trembled with summer heat. Sunlight spilled through wide windows, casting pale lines across desks and filing cabinets. The office hummed with the sound of printers and distant phone calls, yet everything felt louder, sharper, like the silence before thunder. Armin had been carrying reports when he noticed her standing by the window, frozen, color drained from her face. Her fingers gripped the edge of the desk as if she were keeping herself from falling apart. The way she turned toward him was not professional. It was not controlled. It was the look of someone drowning in front of a lifeboat and hating themselves for needing it. Right here, if you're watching Ripple of Love and believe in hope, compassion, and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Because some stories only live when hearts choose to feel them. Armin's mind raced. Inside him, something cracked open that had been sealed for years. Fear, confusion, longing, and a strange instinct to protect. When he asked if one kiss would be enough, the question wasn't about romance. It was about whether one brave act could shatter years of control and fear. Could a single moment rewrite a broken story? Outside, her ex-husband, Colton Vayer, stood across the street pretending to check his phone while actually collecting proof. He had never stopped believing he owned her. His eyes were like ice behind tinted sunglasses, sharp and hungry. He wanted her to be seen stumbling, desperate, needing someone. He wanted power. When Armin leaned in, time slowed. His heart felt like it might explode through his ribs, but not from desire, from empathy. His lips were hesitant, light as wind against fragile glass. The office world faded into colorless blur. In that kiss, he felt her trembling like a bird spared from a cage. But what shocked him more was how her breath caught. It wasn't performance. It wasn't pretend. It was grief releasing itself, pain melting into something dangerously close to relief. When they pulled apart, the air felt heavier, but the world somehow lighter. From that moment, nothing was simple. Days passed, and the tension grew like a bruise under skin. The office lights seemed brighter, the hallways narrower. Verena began noticing things about Armin she had never allowed herself to see before, his quiet kindness, the way he held doors for the cleaning staff, how he folded abandoned papers instead of stepping over them. Armin started noticing how tired her eyes were by afternoon, how her smile faded when her phone vibrated. Both of them were pretending nothing had changed, yet everything had. There was fear of judgment, fear of boundaries, and fear of their own heart's responses. One afternoon, the building's fire alarm malfunctioned. A loud, broken wail echoed through the corridors, sending employees flooding toward the emergency stairs. In the chaos, Verena slipped. People rushed by, but Armin saw it. He always saw when someone was about to fall. He caught her before she hit the floor, his hand steady at her waist, her breath breaking against his shoulder. The alarm shrieked above them like a warning to their hearts. In that stairwell, surrounded by cold concrete and flashing red lights, something inside them shifted. Not desire, not rebellion. Trust. Behind the scenes, Colton was unraveling. Seeing them through the glass that day had not given him the satisfaction he sought. It had made him realize he was losing control. He started small acts of intimidation, anonymous messages, a car idling too long outside the building, whispers slipping through mutual acquaintances. He wanted to drag her back into fear. Armin, once a man who avoided conflict, began changing in ways even he couldn't understand. He started walking her to her car. He began noticing unfamiliar vehicles. He found his voice when speaking to security. Grief had taught him how fragile life was. Loving someone's safety taught him how to be brave. Months pulled them through silent storms. Slowly, the truth surfaced. Verena hadn't asked for the kiss only for protection. In that instant, she had realized she was tired of living like prey. She had needed to feel alive, even if it was borrowed courage. And Armin, who had lived years in emotional ruins, realized that sometimes broken people don't need fixing, they need witnessing. As the narrative nears its heart, if this story has touched you, please support it by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Stories like this breathe because you feel them. One bright afternoon, they sat in a quiet park across the street from the office building. Sunlight danced through green leaves, and distant laughter of children painted the air with normality. It was there that Verena finally told him the full truth about the years of manipulation, the silent bruises, the isolation. Not in dialogue, but in tears rolling freely down her face while Armin sat beside her, absorbing the weight of her honesty like rain into dry earth. Before the final moments of this story, take a second and comment what this journey made you feel. Your words matter more than you think. Colton's power faded not because he lost, but because she stopped reacting. His shadow shrank when she stopped fearing it. In the end, he was just a man across a street, staring at glass that no longer reflected control. The final scene unfolded quietly, not with fireworks or dramatic confessions, but with something more real. In a sunlit hallway, Armin watched Verena laughing at a small joke while holding a cup of coffee. He realized that love wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic rescues. It was about standing still while someone else stopped shaking. He had once asked if one kiss would be enough. Now he understood the answer. No single kiss fixes a broken past. No single moment erases pain. But sometimes, one brave heartbeat can begin a story of healing. She was no longer a woman trapped in fear. He was no longer a man hiding from grief. They were two souls walking forward, not because life stopped hurting, but because they finally believed they deserved softness. And as sunlight poured through the office windows one last time, there was no ex-husband watching, no fear lurking, only the quiet, powerful knowledge that even the most fragile people can become strong when they choose hope over fear, connection over loneliness, and love over control. That is how silent courage sounds when it finally learns how to breathe.